Yo, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Lampzy back again with another video, and today we are 1 week out from the Premier League finally starting. It's going to be an absolute sick season. I think it's going to be closer than it was last season, and today I'm going to bring you my predictions for the upcoming Premier League season. Obviously, guys, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and to be fair, some of the predictions that I've got in here are a little bit wild. I think there's only a couple in there that'd be like, well, that's just a little bit different to what a lot of people probably would have in general. But to be fair, I just think, outside the box sometimes, and I just genuinely try and think, what's really good going ahead. But nonetheless, guys, let's just jump straight into it. Alright, guys, starting from the bottom now. In the 19th and the 20th spot, I just want to go over just a little bit. It was actually a little bit of a weighing up options between Norwich and Sheffield. I put Sheffield on the bottom because I believe that since they have, they haven't been in the Premier League for a long time, whereas Norwich were in the Premier League, I believe, like maybe 5 or so seasons ago. But I know it's definitely been longer for Sheffield. Now, for the main point that I've put these two promoted sides back into the Championship is due to the fact that I believe that you need quality players to at least challenge to stay up in the Premier League. Now, I've looked at the teams, and to be fair, they've really got no higher class players like, say, an Aston Villa does now. And Aston Villa have done really well in the transfer market so far, but we'll go into a little bit more detail in a moment. But Norwich and Sheffield, I don't think they have the world class players to stay up in the Premier League, because there are so many good teams in the Premier League, and there can be upset after upset. Everyone knows what the Prem's like, and I just can't see Sheffield and Norwich being of that quality. Now, obviously above them in 18th spot, we've got Southampton. Now, my brother made a really good comparison of what Southampton are. They're basically the Undertaker, and what I mean by that, and what he means by that, is that everyone writes them off. You bank on them to relegate, and then all of a sudden they rise from the dead. They win a few games after they sack a manager or someone plays really good, and they stay up somehow. Like, it's crazy. It's happened the last few seasons. But unfortunately, I think this year, I think they're done. I think Southampton will get relegated this year. I don't think they've got what it takes. I know they've got a few good players in like Nathan Redmond and Ryan Bertrand, but I believe that's all they've got. Like, it's just really hard, and they haven't made any key signings, so it's really hard to put them higher. So obviously, moving up in the table in 17th, 16th and 15th is Burnley, Brighton and Aston Villa. Now, honestly, I think Burnley should just relegate. I'm sort of over Burnley. Just their style of football is not great. They're more of a dirtier sort of team, and I'm just not a big fan of Burnley. I know there probably are a lot of people who love Burnley and they like the traditional, Premier League teams. But like, Burnley have got a decent team, but I just genuinely don't believe that they're a good enough team. Like, obviously they're good at home in Turf Moor, but I just don't think they've got the caliber players to go higher up in the table. So pretty much I basically cannot see them in the top half of the table. So they'll be lucky to avoid relegation, but to be fair, I just really want them to relegate, to be honest. So obviously, moving up from Burnley, we got Brighton. I actually don't mind Brighton, but they're another team that have quite a few good players, but then they lack in other positions. Like, Matty Ryan is a great goalkeeper. I think he should be at a better club. I think he's a great shot stopper and he's really good with his feet. I think Lewis Dunk is an absolute great centre-back. I think they've got a few other good players in there, but obviously the calibre of team isn't that great. Obviously, they are really good at home as well, as you should be. But to be fair, like last season, the start of last season, they caused quite a few upsets. Like, they beat Manchester United. They can pull those those draws and those wins off when they're needed. So I really don't mind Brighton, but I can't see them being too high caliber. Like, they've got Locadia and all that, but I just really can't see them being having a better season than last. Now, the next one on the list is obviously newly promoted Aston Villa. Now, I've got a bunch of their signings on my phone right now, and they have made some waves. Now, I think Aston Villa, since they've, I really believe they shouldn't have got relegated. They just played really poor in the latter stages of when they did get relegated. I think it was 2-3 years ago now. But I'm really glad to see Aston Villa back. I love seeing JT as an assistant manager. I just think, you know, that Aston Villa can do a lot of good things. Like, look at the transfers that these fellas have done. So mainly I'm going to say pretty much everything in euros and in pounds, but this just section is all in pounds. So I've got Jota for 4 million, El Ghazi for 8 million, Howes for 3 million, Wesley, which is a really good signing, I believe he's from Bruges, for 22.5 million. They've got Target for 14 million. Tyrone Mings for 20 million, obviously was on loan at Aston Villa last season. I really rate Tyrone Mings, my brother doesn't. I actually think he's just a real big physical wide back. I think he's really good with his feet as well. I just think, you know, 20 million is actually really good, especially for an English player. They got Konsa for 12 million, Engels for 7 million, Trezeguet for 8 million, so that's pretty good as well. They've got Louise for 15 million. They've got Heaton for 8 million, which I think is an absolute bargain. I think Heaton is going to do really well this season, especially at Aston Villa now that they get a lot more game time. And you've also got Nakamba for 11 million. So they've made a lot of good signings. Like, they haven't gone out and splashed 50 million on one position and left like the back line, you know, all week. They've gone all across the board. I just really hope it all gels, because we've seen this before. It happened with Fulham last year. They went absolutely spastic with signings, and did it pay off? No, it didn't. So with a bit of luck, since they don't have so many, you know, players like with a lot of ego and that have come from bigger clubs like Schürrle and Seri, like obviously coming from bigger clubs around Europe and then obviously coming together, and then boom, like it just didn't work out. Schürrle had a poor year. Seri had a few good games at the start of the season and then went flat, and then Fulham, we all know what happened. So I just really hope that Aston Villa can gel this season, because I would love for them to stay up in the Premier League. Now guys, moving up the table, in 14th spot we have Crystal Palace. Now obviously I don't mind Crystal Palace at all. They've got a really nice stadium, and I believe that they'll probably have a little bit of a better season this season, but that really relies on one little thing now. I believe that is keeping Wilfried Zaha. Now obviously there has been a lot of talk that Wilfried Zaha is going to be obviously leaving and he wants out, but who knows, because Crystal Palace, you know, held on to him last season, and they'll most likely probably do it again. But there's been a lot of links, especially with Arsenal, but now they got Pepe, and obviously Napoli also want him right now, and I think they're offering like 60 or 70 million, which is absolutely crazy, which I think he would absolutely relish. But obviously, speaking about Crystal Palace as a whole, they haven't done much activity in the transfer market. So obviously they signed Jordan Ayew, and they also signed Punchin. Now obviously Jordan Ayew is not that great. He's obviously had decent spells in the Premier League, so is Punchin, but Punchin is also 33 years old. But yeah, I really believe that this whole Crystal Palace team sort of evolves around Wilfried Zaha, because we all know if Wilfried Zaha is on the pitch and scoring goals, they'll win games, and without him they don't. It's just as simple as that. But to be honest, I can't see them finishing higher than 14th position. So obviously moving up in the table, we've got Watford in 13th position. Now Watford are a very nice team to watch. They have unbelievable fans, but last season we all know what they were like. They were playing really good football at the start of the season. They were in like the top 4 spots for the first couple of weeks, or top 6 for quite a few weeks, and then started to have a few draws, and then they dropped off. Everyone was getting the hype. They were playing really good football for quite a while, and then they got into November, December, and they crashed. And that was all that Watford wrote. But this season they have signed this fella. His name is João Pedro, I believe. I think they got him for like 3 or 4 million. And obviously he's from Fluminense, or Fluminense, I'm not too sure with my Brazilian pronunciation. But you never know, it could be another Brazilian wonder kid. We never know what can happen. Richarlison just came out of the blue and then got sold off to Everton for an absolute buck. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what Watford do, but you know, 13th spot is really good for them. Now moving up in the ladder, in 12th, have Leicester City. Now, to be fair, I know everyone's probably going to be like, whoa, you've got Leicester quite low. A lot of people probably would have Leicester at least in their top 10, but I just don't think Leicester have got the X factor anymore. Jamie Vardy is obviously an absolute beast, but they bought Ayoze Perez this season for 35 million euros, which is beyond me. Like, I do not know how he got signed for that much. Like, that's just insane. But yeah, Ayoze Perez, I don't really rate him up front. I can't see him scoring more than 10 goals a season. I think Jamie Vardy should just play up top by himself and have Demarai Gray as one of the wide players, and then work out whoever you want on the other side. I just think, you can't really play two strikers. But I guess Leicester have played two strikers for quite a while, and they had Shinji Okazaki, who's now left the club, and I believe he's gone to the La Liga. But also, I do want to mention they have signed Yuri Tielemans on a permanent basis, I believe, for 45 million euros, which is a fantastic achievement to go ahead and do that. Pulled that away from Manchester United. And to be fair, Tielemans is an absolute ball. He's really, really good with his feet. Obviously lacks a bit in pace, but to be fair, everything moves so smooth around him. So he's a really good player in the midfield. Moving up the list in 11th, we've got Bournemouth. Now, really good for them last season. I think their home is becoming a fortress, and Ryan Fraser is becoming an absolute jet. I'm really happy that kept a lot of their good players, especially Callum Wilson as well. I'm a bit pissed off that Chelsea didn't get him last January, but beggars can't be choosers. So really no big key moves for Bournemouth this season, but I think they play really good football under Eddie Howe. I think Eddie Howe plays a beautiful brand of football. I think it will take a couple of years and he'll be out of Bournemouth and he'll be, managing a top club with a lot of resources. So Bournemouth I can see doing quite well, and obviously leaving them in the spot they're in. Obviously going up a little bit in 10th spot, I have Newcastle. Now I think Newcastle are due for a decent season. I think Rafa Benitez, him leaving the club is really good for Newcastle. I think, the defensive, sit back and play is really boring. And obviously they play that counter-attacking football, but obviously they never take games on every time they play. And I think they've got the players to do it. And now that they've signed Joelinton, who I think is an absolute baller, he's definitely a future star. I think he's going to be so key for Newcastle this season. I've picked him in my fantasy. Only 6 million in fantasy, guys. I think he's going to be a bargain. I think he's going to score a lot of goals for him. So I think he's going to be a huge asset to Newcastle, because Newcastle have been struggling to find obviously that key main man up front to lead the line, and they're also going after Saint Maximin as well. So that could be a really good winger to have in there. So if they can get Saint Maximin as well, I think they are going to look really solid for the season coming. So 10th spot, I think they're really going to give it a good crack this season. Now into the single digits, in 9th we have West Ham. Now they've made a really good signing in Haller. Obviously played in the Europa League and played really good football for Frankfurt last season. Obviously did come off the bench quite a bit, but he is an absolute jet. He is big and strong. He can shoot the ball. He's good on both feet, believe it or not, and obviously is an aerial threat as well. I think, for 40 million, I don't think West Ham could go wrong. Obviously selling Arnautovic is a bit of a con. Obviously we sort of knew Arnautovic was going to be on the leave either or, and obviously he was really temperamental. Obviously he played when he wanted to play, and then when he would play, he'd play really good, but then it was just like, are you even there? It just looked to me, he didn't really give a fuck. He had that Zlatan attitude, plays good football when he wants to, and then when he's bored, he doesn't play really good at all. So I think getting rid of Arnautovic is a really good thing. I think he was a little bit toxic, and I think now with Haller in there, he's going to be playing first team football all the time, and he's just going to be an absolute jet. Now I believe they also signed Pablo Fornells for roughly around 28 million as well, so obviously that is another good key signing. But they also sold off Obiang, who was 50-50. I sort of did rate him as a player, obviously not, of the high tier level. They sold him off for roughly around 8 million, so I don't think they're going to miss him all too much. Finally, we're reaching into the top 8 now. So in 8th spot, we've got Everton. Now, Everton are pretty much due for a really good year as well. Obviously have signed Andre Gomez on a permanent basis for 25 million from obviously Barcelona. Obviously was a little bit injury prone last season. He must have enjoyed his stay in England, like who wouldn't, because obviously the Premier League is the best league in the world. Obviously they've signed up Fabian Delph as well. I don't think he's going to play left back. Something tells me he's going to be fitted back into his original role at central mid or centre defensive mid, because they've got Digne and they've also got Leighton Baines. I cannot see him playing as a wide player unless he plays at right back, and I don't know if he's played right back before, but to be fair, Delph was only put into that position because they needed him to be there, and he was just a major transformation. So obviously he's become more of a versatile player, but I think I've just got a really strong feeling that Delph is going to be playing in central midfield where he used to play and where he developed his, most of his career. So I think that'll be really good for Everton as well. Also, I do want to mention as well, Onyekuru had an amazing season in the Turkish League last year, and I believe he is back on loan as well. Obviously, that brings a lot of pace into the Everton team, so I think it'll be really, really good things for Everton this season. Also, if they do sign Moise Kean, that'll be absolutely insane. I know I've heard a lot of things. I think it was like 40 million with a buyback clause. I think it would be really, really good if they can. I just genuinely believe if Moise Kean does sign for Everton, he's going to be an absolute baller with Richarlison, and he's going to get bought back. I don't understand why it's not a loan for Juventus's purpose. Maybe just due to the fact that Everton wants him on a permanent basis, but it's really good business for Everton. I think they've done really well in picking out Moise Kean. He is such a young talent, and I'm really excited to see him in the Prem. So please, Moise Kean, I know you're probably not watching this, but if you are, please come to the Prem. I would love to watch you play for Everton. Also, without having to mention, Idrissa Gana Gueye is now gone to PSG. That is a big hole to fill, but I just really feel that Idrissa Gana Gueye, was a huge part to Everton's midfield, and I think they're going to miss him a bit, but it really depends on how well Fabian Delph and the rest of the midfield actually do pull off, this season. Fortunately for Everton, I know a lot of, Everton fans were a little bit disappointed with this, but Lookman is obviously gone to Leipzig. I think this boy has a lot of talent, and I'm surprised that Everton let him go, but Leipzig are probably going to absolutely boss it out with Lookman. It's a little bit disappointing, but as a Chelsea supporter, I'm used to all that sort of stuff, but you never know. Lookman might not be that great in the future, but I think he's a young prospect. I think he's got a lot of potential, but obviously that's all in the past now, so not like Lookman had a lot of chances in the Everton first team anyway. But, I just think it's one player that they probably shouldn't have let go. But nonetheless, guys, Everton in 8th spot. Moving up in 7th spot. Now, this one was actually really, really hard between 6th and 7th. I've got, obviously, Wolves. Now, Wolves are playing in the Europa League playoffs at the moment, and I believe that they're going to be pretty much through. I can't see them not making it. So that's going to stack up a lot more games for Wolves. So hopefully they can sign a few more players, before the end of the transfer market closes up. It really does suck that the Premier League's market does close off earlier than a lot of all the other leagues, but it is what it is. We can't obviously change what has already been set in stone. But to be fair, Wolves have made a lot of good deals, especially with a lot of their players that were on loan last season into permanent deals. Obviously, which includes Jimenez for 38 million, and they've also got Den Donker for 18 million, so which is really, really good business for Wolves, because Jimenez was an absolute baller, got snubbed with the Tots last season, and obviously Den Donker is a really, really versatile player. Obviously didn't fit in straight away, but then obviously started to get his groove now, and I believe that someone of his quality needs to be in that Wolves team, because if they're going to be playing a lot more football next season, especially if they're in the Europa League, they're going to need the depth. Also, one big signing that they did make was Cutrone. Now, Cutrone is an absolute beast. Obviously, Cutrone got pushed out of the Milan side last season due to Piatek's arrival in January. I believe that Jimenez and Cutrone are going to be absolute beasts up top together. I hope it really works out, but I really do rate Cutrone, so I'm really excited to see what Cutrone brings to the Premier League this season. Obviously, no major outs as well for Wolves, so they've held on to players like Ruben Neves, which is fantastic, and Willy Bolly, so they've really got no bad overheads as of the moment. So really good work to Wolves for holding on to their good players. Now, obviously, moving into the 5th and 6th spot, where things start to get a little bit heated. In 6th spot, we've got Arsenal. I can't see them doing any better than last season. I know they've got a really, really good attack now. Obviously, Lacazette, Aubameyang, and Nicolas Pepe. But to be fair, the backline is so shaky. Like, Bellerin, I know he's injured, and when he's not injured, he's always got a niggle or he's injury prone. I love Bellerin. He's world class. He's world class. If you can get him fit for the whole season, then we'll talk. But then obviously on the left, you got Monreal, you got Holding, and then you got Socrates. I think Socrates is now past it. Rob Holding is a good defender, but he can't gel them all together. Obviously, Koscielny wants out. It's just the shambles. Leno, obviously a decent keeper, but obviously can make quite a few mistakes, but I guess what goalkeeper doesn't. But to be fair, I think Arsenal are going to score a lot of goals this season, but it's really the whole factor of if you can score more goals. If they sign maybe a key defender, I think then we can obviously start to push them up into maybe 5th and and 4th spot. I just don't think Arsenal can have a stellar season with only one signing of Pepe so far. Now I say only one signing because Ceballos is on loan. I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's a great player. I'm really excited to see what Ceballos brings now because the midfield is now lacking without Rambo, and I'm really keen to see what, you know, Ozil's got, and if Ozil doesn't play, then maybe Ceballos can sort of step into that position. But then also Saliba that they signed for 30 million, they also sent back on loan, so it's like, what's the point? I think Arsenal should have kept Saliba because obviously they need defenders like hardcore, like real bad. So, but that's what I've got Arsenal in at the moment. Moving on to 5th. Now this one was the hardest decision for me to make. And moving into 5th spot. Now this one was the hardest prediction for me to do, and I've got Tottenham. Now Tottenham had an amazing season last season, and you know, no one probably would have ever thought that they were going to make the Champions League final. A lot of people would have wrote them off. I personally did myself, and they just had an awesome season. They did drop off last season. Now, I'm not sure if that's due to the fact that they put their mindset towards the Champions League and then they just dropped off in the Premier League. If that's the case, then maybe I would have them in 4th, but I'm guessing that, you know, when you have all these competitions, you've got to play well every single game. No matter whether it's the FA Cup, the English League Cup, Champions League, Europa League, Premier League, you know, it's just, you've got to play good football every game. Obviously, they've signed Ndombele, which is an absolute amazing signing, but I've still got this sort of little bit of stigma in my head that French players, especially midfielders, especially after Chelsea signed Bakayoko, because Bakayoko was the hype for Monaco of that season. Then he came to Chelsea and absolutely flunked it. It could be a sort of a scenario like that. I don't think Ndombele will be like that, but who knows? I've just got that little bit of stigma going from the French League to the Premier League because it is such a massive jump. But obviously, it is a good signing, and obviously they've managed to keep Christian Eriksen because I have not heard anything to do with him leaving at all. I don't think Spurs can do it for a full season, and if they can, then they would definitely be in the top 4, but at the moment I still can't see them stringing a whole season together, so I've got them in 5th. Obviously in 4th, I've got Chelsea. I think Chelsea this season is actually going to have a decent year. I think with the fact that everyone's probably like, oh no, Eden Hazard's gone, you guys are going to suck without him, and you guys relied on Eden Hazard too much. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, you can't sign anyone, and that's going to hurt your depth and all that. No, I strongly believe that that's not the case. Obviously, sign Kovacic on a permanent basis, which was a must in my opinion, because I think he is a little bit like Eden Hazard in the midfield, obviously not as strong and all that, but and obviously can't finish the ball nowhere near as well as Hazard, but instrumentally amazing in the midfield. But then you've also got our lone army. You've got Kurt Zouma, who's going to be back. You've got Reece James, who will be back. You've also got Mason Mount, who's looking amazing. And then you've also got Tammy Abraham as well. So you've got a real good bunch of players that will just come into the team who are going to basically feel like new signings. The preseason so far this season has been great. Ross Barkley's been on new levels. I think he wants that England call-up again. Chelsea are just playing really good football. We've got Christian Pulisic now as well, which you can basically count as a new signing as well, since we sent him back on loan to Dortmund. I've also forgotten my main man, the Batman, Michy Batshuayi. He is also back from loan as well. I think he's going to be a huge part, you know, to this new Premier League season. Him, Tammy and Giroud are going to be sharing the weight, I think, this season. We're going to obviously have a lot of games to play. I think Chelsea will make it past the group stage in the Champions League. If not, well, then we'll go straight into the Europa League and probably make the, you know, the quarters, the semis and the final again. So who knows what's going to happen there. I think Chelsea have had a really good pre-season so far. Like I said, Barkley looks amazing there. Mason Mount looks amazing. The back line is obviously really shaky at the moment. I'm starting to worry a little bit like that. But if, you know, if Frank Lampard's game plan can, you know, can sort of, you know, gel a little bit, and our back line can obviously fix itself, I think we're in for a good year. I think we've got to outscore opponents as well, just like Arsenal, but I think Chelsea are more, you know, inclined to do that. So I think Chelsea will have a good season. I think we'll just nick 4th spot. I genuinely believe that we will finish 4th this season. Moving into 3rd spot, a lot of people are probably going to debate this one, but I've actually got Manchester United. They are due for a really good year. I've tipped them to be in the top 4 for the last couple of seasons, and they just haven't managed to do that. But I think this season is the season. Their pre-season has been amazing. Marcus Rashford looks awesome. Wan-Bissaka and Daniel James look like amazing additions to the squad, and there is still a lot more to come, I can just see. Obviously, I am recording this video on the 2nd of August, and obviously I've still got to go to bed, so where everything happens, you know, overnight for me since I live in Australia. This video probably won't be up until the Saturday or the Sunday, so something might happen, but you never know. Harry Maguire could sign, a Bruno Fernandes could sign, and a Paulo Dybala could sign as well. I don't think they'll sign all three, but I think they'll get one or two of them. If they can make one or two of those signings, they are adamant of making top four. They look really good on paper now. I think that if they can hold on to Pogba as well, I think that's huge. I think Dybala coming into the team, if he does, will hold Pogba in that team. I think United, they just look really, really good. They look really attacking this season. I think the team knows what Ollie wants now, and I really can see them playing good football. Obviously, I just genuinely believe also David De Gea will have a much better season than last, and I think with an amazing goalkeeper like De Gea back in form will get you quite a few wins as well. He will save you a few games. So I genuinely believe that Manchester United will finish third because they've only lost Antonio Valencia and Herrera on frees, and pretty much they're going to make some more signings. Lukaku, you just don't know what to say about Lukaku. Last season they pretty much did really well without him anyway. Lukaku is a force, but I think if they can get Dybala in there, I think they'll be alright. But even if they have Rashford up top, they've got no worries at all. So Manchester United in third. Moving into the second spot, and I have Liverpool. I'm very sorry to all the Liverpool fans to see what YouTubers have Liverpool in first. I just believe that last season was the season for Liverpool to win it. I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool did win it, but I really believe that Man City will be the runaway leaders this season. But to be fair, guys, Liverpool haven't lost anyone of bigger stature. They obviously don't have Sturridge and Moreno anymore, but that's not huge losses at all. They signed some Dutch fella, I believe, Sepp Vandenberg. Obviously, I'm not too sure who really that fella is. Obviously, must be a Dutch talent, but no big key signings to make that extra jump in the Premier League. I don't know what Klopp's doing. I don't think he probably deals with much of the transfers anyway, but without any big transfers, when Man City have got that team and that depth, I really can't see Liverpool finishing on top. So pretty much that obviously leaves me to talk about Manchester City winning the league once again, back to back to back, which really frightens me to say that because Man City are an absolute powerhouse. I think them bringing back Angelino is going to be really, really good because Mendy just seems to be so injury prone. It's so disappointing because Mendy is such a quality player, but Angelino was a really good left back in the Dutch league last year for PSV, I believe. And then they also signed Rodri from Atletico Madrid for roughly around 70 million euros as well, so which is an absolute amazing signing. And I believe this is David Silva's last year, so Rodri will probably fill those boots there. He's an awesome two-way player, great defender and a great attacker, so he'll be really, really, really good for the Premier League and for Manchester City this season. Obviously losing Company, I think that might hit them a bit because obviously his leadership is really, really key. But to be fair, only him and Fabian Delph have been the main players cut from the Manchester City team. But I don't think that's going to stop them from winning the league this season. Manchester City are an absolute joy to watch in the Prem, and once again, I think they're going to win the Premier League. But that wraps up today's video, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please leave a like if you do. I really much appreciate all the support that you guys have been giving me. Let me know who you think should be where and what teams I've put in the wrong position. Any money, a lot of you guys are saying, no, Spurs should be higher, or Manchester United should be lower, or Chelsea should be lower, and all that sort of stuff. But like I said, let me know in the comment section below, and I shall see you legends on the next video. Peace out.